Merry Christmas, everyone, and welcome to the first annual every movie and TV show I saw this year. Basically, I've noted down most, if not all, of the stuff I've seen this year from January 1st to November 30th. And when I do another one of these next year, I'll include everything I've seen in December as well. Before we dive into this thing, I first have to give the obligatory spoiler warning for everything I'll be talking about in this video. So if you don't want to get spoiled, I've included timestamps in the description so you can easily skip through this video at your pleasure. And I also have to say that this video was heavily inspired by Diamond Bolt, an amazing creator that you should definitely subscribe to. His channel is linked in the description as well. So without any further ado, let's kick things off with...
Oh, the misery! Every single person...
I started off this year with one of my favourite shows ever. This was the third time I watched Arcane, and it was just as good as the previous two. I cannot recommend this series enough. Seriously, a League of Legends adaptation should not be this good. The animation is flawless, the voice acting is so good. Thank you, Netflix, for not just hiring celebrities. The story is great, and I cannot wait for Season 2 whenever it comes out. Brilliant show.
It has formed a fiery hairball in there.
Continuing the trend of seeing good stuff here with Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. What do I even say about this one that hasn't been said already? It's just such a perfect movie. The animation is gorgeous, the story's great, the characters are all immensely entertaining, the villains were sublime, and everything else was great too. And it's definitely in my top slot of all-time favourite films.
Oh my God!
It appears the Pentagon has been breached.
Zombies.
This was the thing that made me decide to cover the shows I saw this year, as well as movies. The Last of Us was a very good show to watch, for the most part. There were some aspects that I felt could have been changed a bit. Like, there weren't nearly enough of the zombies in this zombie survival show, although what we did get from them were some of the best parts of the entire show for me. There were also some pacing issues that I had with this one, with 2 of the 9 episodes being given to flashbacks, the first episode of which I actually really liked, but the second one just felt like they were having their cake and eating it a bit too much. I think I would have preferred the Ellie flashback episode more if it was saved for the second season that they are definitely going to do, and instead maybe gave the episode slot to improve the flow of the runtime. I also felt like the finale was over a bit too fast. I don't know, that might just been a me thing. I've talked about this way too much, so I'm just going to move on to...
Millions of dollars worth of cocaine fell from the sky this morning in Knoxville, Tennessee.
This movie was just fun. If you plan on watching this, I highly recommend seeing it with friends. It's just a fun, goofy movie about a bear that does cocaine. So stupid. In the lead up to going to see the highly anticipated John Wick 4, I rewatched the previous 3 movies in the franchise, and had a blast the entire time. In my opinion, the first film is the weakest of the 3, which hurts me so much to say, because I love this movie so much, but I love chapters 2 and 3 so much more. All of them are incredible movies that somehow manage to make everything better every single time. If I had to pick a favourite of the 3, it would probably be chapter 2, but just barely, because chapter 3 is just so good as well. I love this franchise so much. You know what I just said about 2 being my favourite out of the John Wick films? Well, this movie became my new favourite. There's just so much good stuff to talk about with this one. So I'm just going to briefly talk about my favourite bits. Of course, I love the Dragon's Breath scene. It's everything John Wick is about, amplified to such a glorious level. The stairs fight where they played Genesis by Justice was great. The German nightclub was awesome, with some of Le Castlevania's best work being blasted in the cinema. And the ending they gave John was so beautiful. It had me almost crying in the cinema. I would say this is my favourite film of this year, but there's a few films coming up that dethrone it for me. What happens when a country gets hit with a devastating blow from an enemy country? Well, in Japan's case, they made Godzilla. A film released only 9 years after the nuclear bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as a sort of protest against further use of nuclear weapons. This film is an amazing example of how the grief of a nation can shine through in the art of cinema. This is an amazing movie that shows exactly how Japan felt when America dropped those bombs on their nation. I cannot do this film justice with this short review. You just have to watch this movie to get the full experience.
It is the Bane!
This year, I got back into Warhammer after a 2-year hiatus from the hobby due to COVID. And, as part of that return to the hobby, I watched a ton of the related media associated with the grimdark universe that I love. The main one being the beloved Astartes. This incredible animated series was the passion project of one man, and for his work, his characters and the series became official Warhammer canon, being the first and so far only fan characters to do so. Unfortunately, the consequence of this was that the entire project was halted and deleted from his YouTube channel, with it now only officially available to watch on the official Warhammer streaming service, Warhammer Plus. I don't really know why I'm talking about this bit. I'd say Astartes Le Good. A re-upload is on YouTube, so go watch it. It's amazing.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, mother.
Quentin Tarantino films are always an interesting one for me. Having only seen Reservoir Dogs before actually sitting down and watching this film, I can say right now I was not prepared for what I got. But what I did get, I liked. It's a film that will always keep you on your toes in anticipation of what's coming next, with several plot lines throughout the movie all played out of sync with each other, really helping to provide the audience with a movie experience that they cannot really get anywhere else. Just watch this film, although be wary when Bruce Willis goes into that shop. Trust me. This is one of the best action movies ever made, and I enjoyed every single second of it. That's about all that needs to be said. Okay, while I was halfway through writing the script, the first trailer for the prequel for this movie just dropped, and I'm super hyped. I love Fury Road so much. I cannot wait for this. I'm so excited.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights? The Constitution says you do.
After the hype train of watching through the entire newly updated John Wick series, I decided to check out Nobody, as I heard it had the same kind of vibe. And it definitely did. This movie has a concerning amount of similarities with the first John Wick that I'm curious as to why it isn't just plagiarism. But at least we got to see Christopher Lloyd go crazy with shotguns, and the bus scene was great.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
I recall leaving the cinema after seeing this one, being very impressed with how the dinosaurs looked. Most of everything else was just a bit bland. Adam Driver is always great in everything, so the studio made a good choice in casting him, but other than that, I just thought a few things could have been improved. Still better than all the Jurassic World movies though.
Megatron has fallen! I, Starscream, am now your leader!
2023 was the year that my friends sat me down and forced me to watch Transformers for the first time. I haven't finished G1 yet, but I did see the movie and can say it's pretty good. The old animation has so much charm to it that I love so much. Orson Welles' Unicron was a treat to behold, and Optimus Prime dying was actually quite a blow. I can definitely understand why children left this one crying. Luckily, Weird Al and Eric Idle came in to lighten up the mood.
Before time began, there was the Cube.
Immediately after watching the first Transformers movie, we then watched the first Michael Bay Transformers movie. It wasn't nearly as good as the G1 film, but I still enjoyed myself. I know that there are so many people that absolutely hate these movies, but personally, I didn't hate this one. It's definitely fun.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
This is where I know I'm going to get some backlash. I actually really like The Force Awakens for a whole host of reasons I can't really go into in the couple of paragraphs I've allowed myself to talk about it. I just really like this film. Yes, all the points said about it are valid. It's just a rip-off of A New Hope, Razor Mary Sue, all the rest of it. I don't care. I like the film. I'm allowed to like the film. I think it's good. I enjoy it. 8 and 9 are absolute garbage, though.
Okay, let's do this one last time, yeah? For real this time. This is it.
To prep myself to watch Across the Spiderverse, I saw this masterpiece again, and I love this film so much. The art style, the story, the characters, everything is just pure perfection, and it got me so hyped up for what's to come.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
Nicolas Cage is one of my all-time favourite actors, so when I saw the trailer for this, I knew I had to see it, and I really enjoyed the whole thing. I think the film had a lot of very good ideas behind it, and understandably Nick Cage was the highlight. He stole every single scene he was in, but I did like Renfeild's story and his relationship with those around him. If you're looking for a fun, goofy vampire movie with Nick Cage, now you have two to choose from.
Don't come to my house or else I'll suck your dick.
On the subject of vampire movies, From Dusk Till Dawn is a very interesting movie to me, because the first half of the movie is a very grounded story of two criminal brothers on the run, taking hostages along the way, and then the second half is vampire prostitutes that literally come out of nowhere. Like, literally out of nowhere. It just becomes a movie about killing vampires. I would love to make a full video on this movie because it's just so bizarre to me. Of all the films I've seen this year, this one was by far the worst. After 4 John Wick films and Nobody, I was looking forward to watching another film in that kind of genre, that being the middle-aged actor turned gunslinging badass. I found this film through its composer, deadmau5, whose music I've been listening to for the past year or so, and out of curiosity, I checked out the trailer. It looked good. I looked at the comments, looking better. I was prepped and ready to watch an amazing John Wick-style action film set to some amazing EDM tracks by one of my favourite artists, starring Mads Mikkelsen, one of my favourite actors. Instead, what I got was half of a mid-tier action flick and half a porno. I'm not joking, the first half of this movie is just painfully long sex scenes, and then when it finally gets to the action, they barely use any of the music deadmau5 made for them. The fight scenes weren't even that good. They didn't even use any music during them. I watched this movie with my parents. Don't watch this film. Go listen to the masterpiece that is Nosedive. I hate this film. Next movie.
The name's Rocket. Rocket Raccoon.
Ah, a film that you've already heard my opinion on. If you don't feel like watching the video I already made on this movie, I'll just give a small breakdown here. Movie Le Good, high evolutionary, very good, made me cry, probably the last good MCU movie.
I'm a goofy goober!
This movie is perfect in every aspect. That is all. Next film.
I see a red door and I want it painted black.
I heard that Black Adam was a mid-tier superhero movie before I saw it, and I have to agree. It's mid.
Remember the swamp? Remember my song in the swamp when I was like, wow.
I really didn't want to watch this one, but the choice I was given was either this or Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So I went with the lesser of two evils. And I didn't hate it. I liked Ursula. I think they found a good voice for Ariel singing. And that's about it. Everything else was either just a recycled version of the original or utterly garbage. I remember giving this movie a 6 out of 10 when I saw it, and I think that was being generous. If you want to watch The Little Mermaid, just watch the original. It's better than this film in every way. What a surprise from a Disney remake.
I can now set the controls for anywhere in time and space that we wish to go.
This is a really charming old Doctor Who adaptation film. Peter Cushing was the perfect choice to play the eccentric Doctor Who. I liked what they did with the Daleks. The alien people were a bit weird, but overall I really enjoyed this film. It's a great introduction to classic Who for newcomers, and it perfectly sets the tone of the show it had back in the day. Highly recommend watching it.
Miles, the black one!
To absolutely no one's surprise, this was my favourite movie to come out this year. What's to say that hasn't already been said? It's a perfect sequel in every category. The animation is great, as to be expected. The Spot was a treat to watch. Miguel was a good secondary antagonist. Gwen's character development was a treat. Miles was just great to watch. Amazing character development on his part. I really enjoyed his parents' arc as well, and Hobie made everyone love him in spite of him being on screen for less than 5 minutes. The film's emotion, comedy, action, atmosphere, and characters are all stupendous. I cannot wait for the next installment in this goddamn masterpiece of a franchise. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse is the best movie of 2023. Enough said. I'm gonna be honest, I hardly remember what happened in this movie. The only bit I remember is the ghost of Harold Ramis coming back, and that was cool. Part 2 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is great. It's still my favourite part of JoJo, in spite of everything else I've seen as I move further and further into the franchise. The Pillar Men are amazing villains, Joseph is a great JoJo, Bloody Stream is an amazing song to open up every episode with, Caesar is a bit annoying, but it still hurts when he gets crushed by that giant stone cross. The ending gets me every time, and then there's von Stroheim. How the hell did an anime make a Nazi my favourite character in the entire series?
'Tis but a scratch. A scratch? Your arm's off. No, it isn't.
I have seen this film so many times, and it still makes me laugh every single time. This is my favourite movie of all time. That's all I need to say. I love this film.
The enormity of their flat brain, the enormity of their stupidity is just overwhelming.
It's almost impossible to talk about this film because I cannot do a better job than Werner Herzog. Basically, it starts out as a surreal documentary about volcanoes and somehow goes completely off the rails. But in spite of that, it remains a very informative and entertaining documentary. It's great. Go watch it.
Pez. It's like printing money.
This is an interesting documentary of the life story of a dude who made a small fortune out of small plastic collectibles. If that sounds interesting to you, then I would recommend it, but it's still fairly niche.
No, this can't be. My bomb. It kills people.
3 hours of pure cinema. Christopher Nolan knew exactly what he was doing with this one, and it's glorious. I just can't talk about this one in a meaningful way. You just have to watch it. Probably the only downsides for me were the 2 sex scenes in the film, but that's the only thing dragging it down for me. Everything else was just glorious. And if you ever see this thing, you have to watch it with Barbie to get that full Barbenheimer experience. Speaking of which, if you told me at the start of this year that one of my favourite movies would be Barbie, I almost certainly would have called you a liar. But here we are. Barbie to me is an amazing film in so many categories. Its comedy is amazing, the acting is great from everyone involved, The references to Mattel's old and discontinued products were a great treat for nerds like me who recognized every single one of them, especially Earring Magic Ken. I cannot believe they put him in that film. The songs were sublime, with many of them making it into my own playlists. The artistic creativity in creating Barbie Land is a filmmaking nerd's dream. I cannot believe they drained Hollywood's supply of pink paint just to make that movie. I just love this film. It's one of the few on this list that I saw twice this year, and I enjoyed it just as much, if not more, in the rewatch. If I had to pick a runner-up to Spider-Verse 2, this would definitely be it. I'm gonna be honest, this movie is less funnier than I remembered. I'm gonna chalk that up to the sequels being funnier than it, sort of taking itself a bit more seriously. I don't know. I just remember Austin Powers 1 being funnier than it actually was.
Oh! Oh, beautiful!
This movie is way funnier than I remembered. Again, I'm guessing because of its sequel. Ace Ventura 2 is a brilliant film, but I honestly forgot how funny the first one was. So I absolutely loved watching this one again.
Kakapoo. There's the Kokako. There's the Kaka. And there's the Catty-poo.
It's a documentary about funny birds, narrated by Stephen Fry. What's not to love? It's just a fun thing to put on and watch, especially with family. I love seeing this thing with family. It is the perfect little family documentary. I love it. I liked the Mario movie. Jack Black as Bowser was a treat to watch, and that Mario music medley they played at the end was glorious. But there were a few things holding it back for me. First being Mr. Chris Pratt as Mario. It just didn't work for me. Likewise with Luigi. And then there's the fact that you can tell it's an Illumination movie. Mario's New York looks exactly the same as The Secret Life of Pets New York. It doesn't really get going with its own visual identity until they go to the Mushroom Kingdom. And the soundtrack is another giveaway to who made this. Mario has some of the best video game music in the history of the genre, and they almost never capitalize on that, instead relying on their bucket of stock popular music. I don't think it's a bad music because of these issues, but I've seen better game adaptations out there. This one just plays it a bit too safe for me to be truly good.
And his name is John C.
As I've previously mentioned, this year I started getting into Transformers, and so I saw Bumblebee for the first time. And I enjoyed it myself. The human characters were good, definitely better than that of Rise of the Beast, but we'll get to that very soon. The action scenes were really well done, and Bumblebee was just like the cutest protagonist ever.
Rhinox! Cheetor! Maximize!
Continuing the reboot of Transformers with Rise of the Beasts was an interesting experience. Bumblebee himself, who worked so hard to bring this franchise back, spent most of this film being movie dead. The characters are reduced so much from Bumblebee that you wonder why they're even there and just wish a Decepticon would step on one. The action, though, is really good, and that's where this movie really exceeds. And while the Transformers aren't my favourite sort of thing, I'm still excited for the next movies in this reboot-a-thon. Okay. This is an amazing movie that somehow managed to have one of the most intimidating Godzilla designs of all time, but also one of the goofiest. I mean, look at this thing! I laughed for a full 5 minutes when I saw this thing, and that unfortunately meant that I didn't pay the greatest amount of attention to the plot of the rest of the film. But that didn't matter to me, because now I have this thing in my life. The original Toy Story is just a great family movie, and I honestly forgot how funny it was. So many of the jokes just went over my head as a kid, but I noticed them now and it was actually quite fun to see them. Toy Story is a great classic Disney movie.
Monkey.
Masterpiece. To be honest, I have no idea how the second movie is better than this one, because Kung Fu Panda is an incredible movie, one of DreamWorks' absolute best. Can't wait for 4. This wasn't good. For context, I grew up with the first 8 series of Red Dwarf, and I love all of them. So when I saw the opportunity to continue the series on iPlayer earlier this year, I took the chance, and I was thoroughly displeased with what I got. The laugh tracks that were so iconic to the show were missing. It tied itself in with some other show that Craig Charles was in at the time, and it just got a bit too meta for the comedy to even make sense. Not one I'd recommend. Luckily, they brought themselves back with what I've seen of Series 10.
Yes, you had zombies, but this is zombie redneck torture family.
Hey! It's spooky month, and I kick things off with this, The Cabin in the Woods. It's a movie with an interesting premise, but not quite executed to its fullest potential, at least to me. I don't think it's a movie I'd watch again, but I still find what it does to be interesting.
Yes, well, time waits for no man.
This movie has an absolutely insane premise, and I love it so much for that. Honestly, I have no idea how a movie like this ended up existing. It's basically what it says on the tin. Abraham Lincoln fighting vampires. But it also somehow manages to remain accurate to the real-life story of Abraham Lincoln. It's a wacky, fun, historical vampire movie that I would highly recommend. Definitely one to watch with friends.
Grass grows, birds fly, sun shines, and brother, the darkness is coming. You need to run.
This is one of the best thriller movies I've ever seen. It kept me on edge throughout the entire thing, slowly amping up the suspense more and more, until it all resolves itself in the finale, which is one of the most satisfying comeuppances I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. Well, here it is, the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. This was a love letter to the fans first, a good time second, and an alright horror movie third. I saw this film twice with 2 different friend groups and thoroughly enjoyed myself both times. To this day, I still can't believe that Matt Pat and the Living Tombstone made it into the FNAF movie. And I'm eagerly awaiting the sequels. And yes, I made Bite of 87 jokes all throughout the movie. Oh, it was great.
It's the guy from Fortnite!
On October 31st, I decided to watch the original Halloween 2. I've seen the first Halloween movie, as well as the bizarre, accidental, comedic masterpiece that is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. But I never actually saw the second movie, and I have to say, it was good. But not as good as Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Kids die for free!
This is one of the best adult animated comedies I've ever seen. The writing and humour is brilliant, the animation and artistic style is just perfect, and learning that it's basically a small team passion project just ties the whole thing together. Also, Chaos plays one of the characters, which I love.
I'm the man who's gonna burn your house down with the lemons. I'm gonna get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down!
I've yet to see the feature film version of Whiplash, but after watching the short film, I definitely want to. The short film was great. Great acting, great musical knowledge, great writing, and J.K. Simmons is always a delight to behold. This is the last movie to come out in 2023 on this list. Napoleon is one of my favourite historical figures, so when the trailer for Napoleon 2023 dropped, I was so excited. I've basically been looking forward to seeing this film for the entire year, and have to say, the wait was 100% worth it. Joaquin Phoenix does a star act job as the titular Napoleon, as we follow him through his rise to power, his fall, and then his rise once again, all ending in the Battle of Waterloo, which was just so good. I haven't seen a historical battle done this well before. It's a visual treat. You get a real idea of the true scale and magnitude of this conflict. I highly recommend this film for just that, but everything else is great as well. It's an amazing historical epic that you will never forget. Unfortunately, it had a bit of sex, so... The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a wholly remarkable franchise. It was adapted from the mind of an imaginative drunk man staring into the cosmos, into a radio series, then a book, then a series of books, a movie, a stage show, a game, a TV series, a top 52 hit single, and so much more. I adore all the early Hitchhiker stuff so much, with my absolute favourite being the radio series. And the show is basically a live-action adaptation of that same radio show. It has so much vintage BBC sci-fi charm. It was basically a short-lived Doctor Who series, but actually good. This show has so much charm at its heart, with my favourite aspects being the guide sections. And finding out that all of them were animated by hand is insane to think about. It's just a fun little old British sci-fi comedy that I will highly recommend. Don't watch the movie, watch this. If you can't watch this, listen to the radio show. If you can't do that, read the books. If you can't read the books, wait until I read them for you. They are hilarious. Douglas Adams is an absolute legend.
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Die Hard is the movie that ended off this year's movies for me, and I'm so glad that it did. I've seen this film like 5 times and enjoyed myself for them all. And before you ask, no, I personally do not consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. It's an action movie set at Christmas. It can be enjoyed all year round, making it sort of the perfect movie to transition from November to December with. It's an amazing action movie with great acting, endlessly quotable lines, and a place forever in my heart as a great movie. And that's everything. Over 50 movies, TV shows, and whatever else made it in here. And it's finally done. I'm interested in hearing what you think of my opinions to the films this year, and what your thoughts on these movies are. I look forward to seeing what you have to say in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I would truly appreciate you dropping a like on this video, subscribing to the channel, as well as my second channel, Another Invisible Cactus, where I upload slightly more frequently than I do on this one. I also have a Discord server, and I stream stuff on Twitch. If you're interested in any of those things, the links are in the description. As I said at the beginning, hopefully, if everything goes right, this should be going up on Christmas Day as my present from me to all of you. I'm sorry I haven't been the most active creator this year, but I'm hoping to make it all up to you guys now with these 3 December uploads of the 1914 advert video, the movie video, and... I'll see you all on New Year's Eve. Thank you for watching, everyone, and have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. I have been the Invisible Cactus. I'll catch you all again very soon.